we started this program in 2009 when the Taliban took over the Swat Valley. Then when the Pakistan army came, bombed Swat to get rid of the Taliban, almost 2 million people got displaced. We are all volunteers, 100% volunteers in the States. We all do this as friends. And because I pay for the overhead and my family, we pay for the overhead of the organization, we are able to send 100% of whatever people give us.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Amina with New Wave Global. As we celebrate the Women's History Month, which is an annual observance to highlight the contributions of women in events in history and also in contemporary settings, I figured what would be a better way to celebrate it than to honor some women from Pakistan, some inspiring women who've made contributions to the society, not only over here, but also back home. My guest today is Zebu Jilani. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for having me.
Of course, it's a pleasure. Zebu is somebody who likes to stay behind the scenes. She claims that she's not a social figure. She doesn't want fame. She just wants to do the work that she's doing. And that in itself is commendable. She is a founder of Swat Relief Initiative, which is a nonprofit organization which has been doing tremendous work in Swat. So she is a champion for women in Swat. She has worked hard to bring education, healthcare, and other reforms to the society through her initiative. I'm going to let her talk to you about it, but Zebu, if you could start by putting things in perspective for us, your background, your association with Swat, and what led to the formation of this SRI.
Well, Amna, we started this program in 2009, and it started when the Taliban took over the Swat Valley, and then when the Pakistan army came, and they bombed Swat to get rid of the Taliban, almost 2 million people got displaced, and they became what were called IDPs. And that's the time, and being from the Swat Valley, I kept getting calls from people that were being displaced, that they had just come out because the army had just given them a 1-hour notice to get out of Swat, so that they could start their bombing expedition. And so being from the Swat Valley, I was really disturbed by this. And, my family has a history in Swat. My great-grandfather and grandfather were rulers there. And literally for 5 generations, we've been helping the people. In fact, Swat was like a no man's land, tribal land, which had no infrastructure. And the first infrastructure was started by my great-grandfather, and then my grandfather continued after that. And Swat was known to have one of the highest education rates in rural areas.
So very humbly, you're saying that you have been rulers of Swat for generations, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So I felt it was my responsibility, since our family's been working there for so long, to help the people. So when people started giving me calls, and they would wake me up at night because that was daytime for them. So right. I would get very upset and have sleepless nights over that. And then my husband suggested, he was very, very involved with our organization. And if he had not helped me start it, I don't think I could have done it alone. So he gets a lot of credit. He passed away in 2018, but he was a big part of this organization. And all the basic structure was formed by him. So he just told me, let's go there, let's help the people. And all I could do was send an email to all my friends. And luckily, people were very generous. They supported me. I went there. I helped the refugees. And, we were able to provide a lot of help to them. And then when it was time for people to go back, and the Taliban were removed from Swat, I went along with all the IDPs back to Swat. We were carrying
I was just going to say, so this initiative was basically born out of a tragedy, right?
Exactly, exactly. And Swat was known as, throughout its, its history as a state, an independent state. Swat was always known for its peace, and we'd have a lot of tourists come there. But this was the first time we were seeing turmoil and, just the opposite happening. So I went back with the refugees. We even got shot at. And
Oh, wow.
we went back, yes, we were carrying some medicine because there were 10% of the people had remained in Swat. So they needed medicine and supplies and all. So we were taking those, and we had spoken to a few army people, but there was one post where I think the message hadn't gotten through. So they started firing at us, and we had to go back and then come again. So once we went back and helped people in this tragedy, we realized that there was because almost 400 schools had been destroyed by the Taliban, and those were schools that my grandfather and great-grandfather had built. So we had to start something long-term for them. So that's when I formed my organization, and we started helping people. And I felt it should be a holistic approach because, if we start education for young people, where do the women go?
Right.
The women have to have something to, improve their conditions as well. So we started a women's empowerment program. We started a healthcare program. We started an education program. We started a program for the environment and giving people clean water. Because even if you have healthcare and you don't have clean water, people can die. If you have education and you don't have empowerment of women, they can be left behind. So we did all this, and one of the biggest thing that we've started in Swat, and people do come and do some kind of social mobilization, but this is social mobilization is basically at the heart of our program.
Yeah, that's a novel concept. I wanted you to elaborate on that.
So this is something that we do, whichever village we work in or whatever area we work in, we try to organize the people into one entity. We get them to elect their, representatives, and the representatives elect the president, and we try to make them form an organization where every household is involved in the village. And
it's
so
a community effort.
Yes, so it's like it's like democracy at the grassroots level. Basically, that's what it is. And this is, I always tell people in America, because Western countries are really good at mobilizing and organizing themselves. And this is the thing that's lacking in third world countries. So I always tell them the best thing they can export to third world countries is this ability to mobilize, because then they can do something for themselves. So we do all these 5 programs in the Swat Valley, and so far we've been very successful. We built 6 of our own schools. 2 we run with an organization called Early Education Foundation, and then 2 it's in Swat and the rest of Pakistan. There are a lot of schools called ghost schools, and these are schools that were built but were never sanctioned, and they don't have any students in them. So the building is there but no students. So what we did with those schools was that we went to the government, organized the community, went to the government, lobbied for teachers and funds to pay for the teachers. And luckily the government took ownership of those schools, brought in the teachers, and we SRI agreed with the government to renovate the schools for them, because they don't get funding for the schools for building structures. So we did that, and luckily we were able to make 2 schools functional. So we have those schools, and we still support those schools. If they have something, if they have a teacher that the government's not sending, we send a teacher there. If they need a well, so we're still supporting those schools.
So even where the governments failed, where the government infrastructure failed, you swooped in and kind of saved it.
Yeah, exactly. So those are schools we have too. And in the health sector, we cover almost 30,000 people.
Oh,
and
what's the population of Swat at the moment?
I think it's close to maybe 3 million.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we've covered with our health program, we cover 30,000 people, and we provide them with healthcare. Women, it's basically a mother-child healthcare program,
Okay.
and it's basically preventive and providing tertiary care for people over there. And the way we do it is we train these lady health workers that we send into homes, and because a lot of people don't have the means to go to hospital.
Right.
So a lot of them don't get vaccinated. A lot of them have their babies at home, and that puts them at risk for death and disease and, having problems later on.
Correct.
So we send the women to their homes. We regularly monitor them. We provide them with information on how to prevent disease, how to look after their children, and what we've done so far, we started in 2010, until now, we have reduced infant mortality by 65%.
Wow.
Maternal mortality by 98%, and we've increased vaccination rates by 99%.
That's incredible. That's probably better than entire Pakistan.
Yeah. So yes, our figures are higher than what Pakistan is able to achieve. But we have a very much smaller area, of course,
Yeah, but then your resources are very limited as well, right?
Yes, exactly. And a lot of people say that the kind of program that we have, and the people that we impact, most organization would spend like at least $2-3 million on that, and our budget is 150,000. Because first of all, we are all volunteers, 100% volunteers in the States. We all do this as friends. And because I pay for the overhead, and my family, we pay for the overhead of the organization, we are able to send 100% of whatever people give us to
so whatever you generate is just sent to you.
100% is sent over there. Yeah. So this is how we're able to do it. And by organizing the communities also, it creates like literally tens of thousands of volunteers for us. So by doing these things, and we are able to do it. And our promise to our donors is that 100% will be spent on the people. And there's a zero tolerance for corruption in our organization. Plus, I go back for 3 to 4 months of the year
every year
to make sure that everything is running smoothly. We start new programs at that time, and I make sure that every penny is accounted for.
So your presence is very, very physical. It's there.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm hands-on, and the thing that I enjoy about my program is when I go back and I meet the people, and I'm roaming around in the villages, and I talk to them, and I see how grateful that they are. So I think when we help the poor, I think we benefit more than they do, because it touches our heart, makes us more peaceful. It helps us elevate our minds, and it makes us lead a more fulfilling life. And the thing is that
if only everybody realized that.
Yeah, they don't. That's what I'm saying. People who don't realize that are not very fortunate, because even though you may have a lot of money, unless you're giving and helping other people, your life is not complete. My life was not complete until I started doing this. And just educating someone is such a big thing. I feel that I always tell my friends that if every person in the world who could afford it could educate just one child, we would reduce poverty and by almost 20 or 30% in the world.
So also one of your major focuses in that area is women empowerment. How are you going on about that?
Okay, well, for the women, we have these vocational centers where we train them with, the Swat is known for its handicrafts. and it's pulkari or needlework. It's a very unique kind of needlework which is done from the back. So we are trying to bring that back too, and whatever the woman is interested in, we have several programs that they can join and learn whatever skill they're interested in. And once they learn that skill, we give them tools, because most women are not allowed to go outside and have a business. Most women can only have the business at home. So
that's what I was going to ask, that from my understanding of Swat family system is that it's very patriarchal, and women are somewhat oppressed and have to get permission for even stepping out of the house. Yes. So how do you combat that?
So that's by having these, it comes back to the social mobilization, by organizing communities, because we don't just organize them, we also train them on the benefits of letting women work, sending their daughters to school, making them aware of the benefits of those things. So it's a whole training program. So once you convince the men, they're then conducive to letting the women come out to our centers and learning these skills and all of that. So that's how we do it. And once they learn the skill, then we give them tools to take to their home, start their business. We put them in touch with other business people so they can sell their goods. So it's a whole programs and these women, once they get trained and they start their own businesses, they're given more respect in their homes.
Yeah, of course.
It raises their status. The only reason why women don't have a status in those areas is because they're not earners. They don't bring in money into
independence.
Yeah, so and creates independence for them. And
for the most of the world, Swat's claim to fame is Malala. So since the events surrounding Malala's attack on Malala and then whatever followed, how have things changed in Swat? Has that brought more emancipation to the women? Has that made your task easier, or not really? Things haven't changed much.
Well, these are old societies. Just by someone gaining fame, it's not going to change people's mind.
The mindset.
What changes mindsets is these programs in social mobilization. And showing your presence, motivating people to change. So just someone acquiring fame is not going to help the society there or produce schools for them or programs for them. So I think Malala has been created that awareness. But the change, she needs to do a little more to bring the change. Maybe if she goes there once a year, or people know of programs that.
But the groundwork, the actual groundwork.
The actual groundwork is what.
Has primarily been done by your organizations. Your initiative is the one that has been the boots on the ground and actually making a difference.
Yes, and that's
right over there.
Exactly. So that's what I tell people, that if they really want to do something constructive, something that gives them satisfaction, is to be on the ground. Because nothing gives you, yes, you can give money, and that is an important part of it. Because, I tell my friends, they always say, you're doing this. I say, no, don't put the onus on me. We are all doing this. Because if they didn't support me, didn't give me the money, I wouldn't be able to do it, no matter how much my boots were on the ground. So we are all doing it together. But I feel personally that the boots on the ground is the thing that changes, is life-changing.
That's what actually makes the actual difference. Because we're collecting funds for different causes every day, but not all of them are as successful because they're not carried out in that same manner. Like you have to be there to make the
exactly. And the thing is that SRI is one of the only organizations that where the board members and the people at the top are also on the ground. So because a lot of people who are CEOs and all just stay in their offices and far away from.
I was going to say that that's such a novel concept, because most of the times the administration is restricted to the offices or the admin work, and they never actually get to see the ground realities of the workings of an organization, or for that matter, even in our part of the work, it's the same. people who are making decisions do not realize how the actual life works. But that's very interesting that everybody who's making those decisions is actually involved in the real groundwork.
Exactly. Going to the place,
Yeah.
seeing the programs, connecting with the people, and then I think your passion grows with that.
Yes. Yeah. And you understand, where anything is coming from, and then
Exactly.
you have the right perspective or frame of mind to make decisions for. So just coming back to that, what is your donor base?
So our donor base is mostly individual donors.
Okay.
Yeah, and so we get, we do have a relationship with Rotary International as well. I don't know if most people have heard about that.
Yeah.
But Rotary International has almost 2 million people in it. It's
Okay.
different clubs, they have clubs all over the world, literally.
Mm-hmm.
And we have some clubs in Pakistan too. So I started the Rotary Club of Swat.
Okay.
I was the founder of the Rotary Club in Swat. So as a result, I've been doing a lot of talks in Rotary functions, Rotary gatherings, and there have been clubs that have been supporting us as well, to build wells, help with the schools. So we have them supporting us as well. But I would say 80% of our donations come from individual donors. And a lot of the money is also donated by myself, and my husband had started a fund where we keep the money, and whenever and every year we donate to the programs.
Okay, and you mentioned something about clean drinking water projects too. So how did you go about managing that, and how did you make that happen? Because I'm assuming that required a lot of infrastructure to get that going.
Yes, definitely. Well, we added that program because it fitted in with our holistic approach. So what we did was we realized that a lot of people didn't have clean water. So when we treat them, we'd realize that, a lot of people would get dysentery, hepatitis, and different, I think, that were related to water cleanliness. And that's when we started clean drinking water. And before we used to build those hand pumps, but now we have, because the water table's really gone down, maybe like 200-300 feet, we have to use these heavy drilling machines to make the wells. And that costs a lot more than the pumps, but luckily our donors have been very generous. This is something that's close to the hearts of a lot of our donors. So they give very generously to this program. And then alongside with that, it's a whole environmental program. So basically we are teaching people, we have cleanliness drives. We work with the government to try to, because there's some villages who don't have any means of the main villages in Swat, like the capital and places around the capital, have a system of the government coming and taking the waste, but in remote areas they don't. So we try to create a system for them so they can dispose of their waste, or even if the government can come and help them with that. We also have a tree planting drive. Every year we plant between 5,000 to 15,000 trees. And with that, we involve the students, all the students in the areas, the community, they all come out with us and plant these trees. And then they're responsible for looking after those trees so they can survive. Yeah.
So you're building up environmentally sustainable programs.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So you're saving the environment. So I would like you to comment a little bit on the history of Swat and how it's been ravaged in multiple eras of history, and your family has actually stepped up every single time to save it, for the lack of a better word.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that, it started from Alexander the Great.
Right.
He also came to Swat while he was coming to the subcontinent. He was one of the invaders. So he left people, because people there, if you notice, are very fair. They have blue eyes. So some of them have Greek blood. Yeah, Greek blood. And and then we had after that, we had the Buddhist era. So Swat is known for its Buddhist I mean, I think they were there for like almost 300 years, and we still have, artifacts that are being discovered all the time. My grandfather built a very nice museum, which got a little damaged during the Taliban time, and the Italian government has helped renovate that. So there's a very good museum showing the history of the Buddhist era of Swat. And then after that, Mahmud Ghaznavi came and defeated, after the Buddhists was a Hindu Shahi government. And then after the Hindu Shahi government, Mahmud Ghaznavi came, defeated them, and he started ruling over there. And then Swat was a no man's land where different tribes were, the Yusufzai tribes also came from Afghanistan and occupied it. And the old Swatis were pushed to Mansehra and those areas in Hazara. So once the Yusufzai tribes came, there were many tribes. So all they did was fight with one another.
Yeah.
And so there was no progress. There was no education. It was just people taking land from each other. And so my great-great-great-grandfather, who was known as Seydou Baba, or the Akhund of Swat. So he came along and he started creating peace amongst these tribes. They would come to him to solve their problems, and and then his son did the same thing. And then finally they were still fighting, so they got fed up and they elected my great-grandfather to be the ruler of Swat. And because he was very sincere, and he was only 18 years old at that time.
Wow.
But he had a lot of vision. And even though he had no education, he knew how to govern. And so he's the one who started the modern government of Swat. He started building schools. The first girls' school was built in 1926. In the tribal areas, it was unheard of to have a school for girls because they didn't
just
education.
Plug in that. You mentioned a saying in Swat where they talk about how the women are supposed to live.
Yes, so there's a saying there, and I'll say it first in Pashto, which is it's a proverb which says the khazi da para ya korde ya gorde, which means for the woman there is either the home or the grave, nothing in between.
That's how restricted they are.
That's how restricted the lives of women are. And I always tell people that, if someone goes to India to work, women can at least come out of the houses and take advantage of those. If you go to Bangladesh,
that's what I want to highlight, that's the impact that SRI and your family has made. They've changed that mindset they've changed that proverbial woman of home to grave to a woman who can actually go out in the society and be a productive member of the society.
Yes, because I remember I used to ask my grandfather, why do you concentrate so much on education? And he would say, education is the biggest equalizer.
Right. Yes.
It'll make and as a result, all the people who worked for us as servants, as, nurses, and their children are now doctors and, engineers and, high up in the, in the CSP. And so, he achieved that because once you're all educated, you become equal. There's
absolutely
no difference. Yeah. So that's and then when and my great-grandfather, he loved education. I mean, he had had religious education, but he had never had any formal education. So once everything settled down and he had built the infrastructure, he gave the job of ruling to my grandfather, because he said he was only 60 years old. He wasn't that old, but he retired because he said, now I've educated everyone else. Now I have to educate myself. So he passed his metric at the age of 62,
Wow.
because he said, I have to get an education as well.
Incredible.
And then, of course, after that, he educated his children, my great-grandfather. We were also educated in convent schools, and education became the fray for
forefront.
And Swat was known for its fantastic education system, very high quality education.
Right.
So, and that's what we're trying to emulate now.
Yeah, I see that.
All the schools that we have, we try to give them, quality education so that they can also become something and improve their lives and improve their own lives and the lives of their families and their future generations.
Yes, this is, they were definitely an inspirational story. Thank you for bringing about a cultural, educational, economic change in one of the remotest areas of Pakistan where all this is completely unheard of. It's definitely a radical initiative. Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing your story with us. Hopefully it can inspire other people to to go on and do greater things. Thank you so much.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Of course, it's a pleasure.
Okay. Thank you, Amina.